Let's take a look at some more advanced configuration options. I'm going to go ahead and add a different product in here using the quick access menu. That has been added to the bottom of the screen. You see that we have, again, a description, a name that I can override based on the configuration for this particular portal. We can see that we have the product price being applied. I have a mutually exclusive or select one and only one from this drop-down option down here, which will apply a different price. The exact same thing that we saw in the previous video. Again, I have optional components, exactly the same as in the previous video. Now, if I go a little bit further down, we have our sort of first order configuration properties, similar to what we had on the previous video. These are directly accessible and do not offer any additional information beyond simple drop-downs, text or number inputs or checkboxes. But we also support a more advanced parameter or configuration parameter in the form of tables. So in this case, I've got a data objects to migrate as a part of this data migration product. If I go ahead and I click add object, you can see that I now have a table-based system for collecting additional information. This is really useful for example, this exact scenario where I have multiple pieces of information that I need to collect. They're not SKU-based, so they're not components. You could configure them as components if it's a very standardized thing, but in this case, it's not. I do want this to affect the pricing, and I want to be able to collect multiples of these on a single product so that I don't have to go and add a product per object in order to get to my pricing. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just select a couple of different options here. And what you can see is we have some different configurations here. Right now, these are not affecting the price of this deal because these items have not been configured to affect the price of the deal. However, if I go ahead and I turn on this deduplication, you can see that this now does affect the price of the deal. Deduplication at the table level is right now configured to add a fixed amount of $1,225 to this line. All pricing is fictitious. This is just a demo portal. If I go ahead and I tick this on for multiples of these, you can see that we now have plus $3,675 as our total adjusted price. All options within the configurable parameter section are really easily configurable, meaning you can customize these first order access fields to your exact needs, but you can also customize the data tables to your exact needs. You can have the columns that you require. Those columns can be configured in the method or the way that you require. So they can be drop downs, they can be text or number enter fields, they can be checkboxes, and you can have multiple tables on a particular product. You're not limited to only one. Looking at some more advanced features that we have available is subconfigurable products. If I go ahead and I add dealer management system, you can see that we have a very similar scheme. We've got some required products. We have some optional products. Nothing really new or particularly exciting there. However, if I go ahead and I add this training program itself is a configurable item. If I go ahead and I click that, you will see that we now have a configure option right here. This configure option has now pulled up the configurations that I can do on this particular product. You can see that we have some configurable parameters here. Again, these can be exactly the same level of complexity that you have at the higher level. So this can have these first order access, and you can see that we have a number enter field here. We can also do text. We have drop downs and we have checkboxes. I can also add data tables to this sub product. Can configure some optional items from here. and we'll come back to how the pricing resolution works in a future video. If I go ahead and I click add to quote, you will see that I have 7 items selected. The price is now displayed as configured. My price is updated. And if I click edit, I can go back in and I can revise the information that I have already captured. All of this will affect the actual pricing of the system. And we will see how some of this gets tied together in terms of communicating this to the end client in a future video.